Hi friends, welcome back to your yoga class. My name is Maria and today I have an everyday yoga flow. All we're going to need today is our practice space, a mat, and optional to bring blocks along if you'd like them. If they're part of your practice, go ahead, but they're not necessary. I'll meet you on the mat. We're going to come into a tabletop position and then we're going to immediately take our knees out wide, bring the toes back to touch behind you. Start to sink your hips towards your heels, walk your hands towards the front, coming into a wide-legged child's pose. Take a moment here to notice where you're at with your body. Notice any sensations that you might be feeling. Or if you're more in your head today, notice any thoughts that are swirling around in your head. Just for a moment, we're going to acknowledge everything that we're sensing, feeling, and thinking about. Take another big inhale in, big exhale out. Stay here, but we're going to very gently just lift up for just a second. Lift the left arm and then thread it underneath the right arm. And then relax your torso over that left arm. Rest your forehead gently on the ground if that feels good. From there, feel free to wrap it, grab that left thigh. And we're going to stay here for a couple of breaths. Just two. Big breath in, big breath out. One more. And we're going to bring that right arm out in front again. Use it to help us push up very gently. Extend the left arm out. Lift the right arm. Thread the right arm underneath that left shoulder. And we're going to gently rest our torso and then feel free to leave your left arm there or to bring it around your back and behind. Feel free to bring the right temple or the right ear to the ground. And notice the sensations you're feeling now. Notice if your breath is helping release any of them. And then whenever you're ready, slowly bring your left hand back out front, push up, unravel, and we're going to lift the hips for tabletop position. Start to drop the belly, lift the chest up and through the arms, take a big inhale, big exhale, tuck the chin, round through. On your next inhale, start to draw the belly and the ribs down, maybe pull the chest in between the elbow and arms. And then exhale to round through. Last one, big inhale, cow pose. Exhale, tuck everything, round through, cat pose. And then come to a tabletop position. We're going to walk the hands a little bit forward, press down through all 10 knuckles, and then rotate the inner elbows so they face towards the front of the mat. If it feels good for your down dog, as we get into that, feel free to rotate your fingertips a little bit more outward so that your thumb is maybe pointing towards the front of the mat, your thumb and your pointer finger. Tuck the back toes under, lift and stay here for just a moment. Take a big inhale in, and then as you exhale, start to lift the hips up high for downward facing dog. Move your feet to wherever they feel good. Your heels can be lifted here, and then bring a slight bend to the knees. Just enough to allow you to push away from the ground to stretch that torso, stretch that back a little bit more. Maybe try to bring your ears in between your arms as you stretch and lengthen through the back. Big inhale, big exhale. Lift your right leg up for three-legged down dog. Try to have your toes pointing down towards the earth. Have both of your hip points pointing towards the mat or towards the ground like headlights. And then slowly start to walk your hands back towards that left foot, leaving your right foot up, but it doesn't have to be straight up. It can be just horizontal or a little diagonal. We're coming into standing splits. Feel free to bring your blocks, if you have them, out in front of you to help lift the ground up a little bit more. But we're going to bend into that left knee, a little baby bend, big inhale, big exhale, relax and place that right foot down onto the ground. We're going to come into a forward fold here. So relax the crown of your head towards the earth. Imagine that you have a block in between your thighs to try to draw those knees and thighs in just a little bit more. And if it helps, feel free to bring that block right in between and squeeze them. Option to grab opposite elbow here for ragdoll. And then maybe rock a little bit from side to side, keeping that movement small. Whenever you're ready, return to stillness. Release your arms towards the earth, just relaxing. They don't have to grab onto anything. And then slowly bend your knees and roll yourself up, rolling that torso up off of your thighs, tucking everything, bringing your head up last. Come into mountain pose. Bring the palms of your hands to face towards the front. If you have that block, feel free to keep it. Keep it in between your thighs. Lift your arms up, big circle out, around, and up. Reach the fingertips up, an option to gaze up for extended mountain pose. Big inhale, big exhale. And then relax your hands down by your sides. This time bring your blocks and move them out to the side. And we're gonna lift the arms up, big inhale, reach up. Big exhale, take your arms out to your sides and down to your thighs. Bring your hands to your hips, bend your knees slightly, and then bring your pinkies to where those hip creases are. What we're gonna try to do is we're gonna try to fold and hinge at the hips so that we are squeezing our fingers, our pinkies in between the lower belly and the top of the thigh. So this is the position we're gonna stay in. Try to bring your hands out and bring them towards the earth, forward fold. Shake your head yes and shake your head no. And then relax the crown of the head towards the earth again, meaning that maybe you're gazing towards your knees now. Keeping that same position though with your legs. If your knees are a little bit more bent than usual, that's fine. From here, remember, keep your lower belly pressed into your upper thighs and press into your heels here as well. Pull your sitting bones away from your heels as you're stretching through the back of the legs. Notice how that feels. Big inhale in. Big exhale out. Relax the hands. Walk your hands towards the front. We're going to come into a downward facing dog and walk the feet back a little bit if you need to. Keep your knees bent here, but keeping that same position. So if you were to put your hands in between your hip creases, would you be able to pinch them? On your next inhale, lift the left leg up high, three-legged down dog. Try to point the toes down, hip points point towards the earth, and then slowly start to walk your hands back towards that right foot. Left toes are still pointing down, coming into half splits. Option to bring the blocks here to help lift the floor to you. Big inhale in, and exhale, bring that left foot next to that right foot. Slide the hands up to your shins or thighs and lift your torso up halfway. Stay here for a moment and tuck your chin to just elongate through the back of the neck. Maybe slide your hands up to your thighs and tuck the elbows back into your torso. On your next exhale, bend over your legs, coming into forward fold again. Bending those knees as much as you need to allow that pinching motion to happen with your hip creases. And then feel free to move the blocks out of your way. If you'd like to keep a block in between your thighs, feel free to do that. And then relax the crown of the head once again towards the earth. Grab opposite elbow and rock a little bit from side to side. Release your arms. Bend your knees and slowly start to roll up, bringing your head up last, coming into mountain pose. The block can actually stay here if you'd like it to. It's helping just bring a little bit of internal rotation to the legs. If you don't like it, toss it to the side. We're gonna step forward just to the middle of our mat, lift the arms up high, reach up towards the sky, and then with your left hand, grab onto your right wrist. Take the right fingertips towards the left side. Option to bump that right hip towards the right a little bit more, finding a gentle side stretch. Check in with your right foot, make sure that's pressing into the earth. And then check in with your right shoulder, maybe plug that back in space a little bit to rotate your chest up towards the sky. option to gaze up. Release your grip, come back to center, opposite grip, and then take your left fingertips towards the right side. Feel free to bump the left hip out and then press into that left foot. Check in with that left shoulder. If it's lunging forward a little bit in space, bring it back so that it's equal with the right shoulder. And then lift your arms up towards the sky. Relax your hands down by your sides. Feel free to remove that block or to keep it in between your thighs. Choice is yours. Place your hands down by your hips so that your pinkies are right at your hip creases. Bend the knees, shift forward to half lift, and then fold over your leg so that you are pinching your hands. Not pinching too much, but just enough so that you feel it. Release your hands and then come into forward fold. Place your hands onto the mat, step one foot back and then the other. We're going to shift all the way forward onto our toes. Option to drop your knees onto the mat and then slowly lower all the way down to the ground with your elbows grazing your ribs. Once you're here, tuck your elbows back, keep your hands by your ribs, and on your next inhale, we're just going to lift the top of the chest, neck, and chin slightly. Big inhale to lift. Exhale to come back down. This time, press your hip bones into the earth, squeeze your glutes. We're going to try that once again. Inhale, lift. And come back down. Tuck your back toes under, push into your hands, push up into your knees, returning to tabletop position. Send your hips back, lift the knees, and lift the hips for downward facing dog. Big inhale in, big exhale out. Lift the right foot for three-legged down dog. Start to walk the hands back towards the back of the mat. Standing half splits, option to bring the block underneath. And then ground that right foot onto the ground, coming into a forward fold. Remove the block. Shake your head yes, shake your head no. Release the crown of the head towards the earth, coming into forward fold. Start to sink the hips towards the earth a little bit more, bend the knees, and then lift the torso up towards the sky, coming into chair pose. Imagine you're sitting in an imaginary chair. Option to have the arms up overhead or option to bring them beside your torso and back, palms facing down, and then option to lift the heels. Release and forward fold once again. Start to crawl the hands back towards the front of the mat, coming into a downward facing dog. Lift the hips up high. Lift the left leg up, three-legged down dog, point the toes down, and then start to walk the hands back towards that right foot. Toes point down, standing half splits. And then place that left foot onto the ground, slowly returning to forward fold. Lift the arms overhead and start to lift the torso as you sink in to chair pose. Big inhale in, big exhale out, sink the hips a little bit more. And then option to lower the arms down by your sides, palm facing down. Rotate the shoulders up, around, and back to draw the shoulder blades together. Big inhale in. On the exhale, option to lift the heels up for tiptoes. And then ground your heels, fold back over your legs to forward fold. Start to walk the hands towards the front of the mat and step the feet back, returning to downward facing dog. Bend the knees here as much as you need to, returning to that pinching sensation, imagining that maybe you're holding a towel in between your hip creases. And then slowly lower your knees to the ground, untuck the toes, and release your forehead towards the earth, coming into a child's pose. Coming onto your hands and knees, start to lift the knees and then lift the hips up high, returning to downward facing dog. I'm going to stay here for a few more breaths. Bend the knees here. And then slowly start to tiptoe your feet towards the front of your mat to meet the backs of your hands. Slide your hands up to your shins or your thighs. Lift the torso up halfway. Take a big inhale. And then as you exhale, slowly fold back over your legs, forward fold. Start to roll up to mountain pose, bringing your head up last. Grab your right wrist with your left hand and bring your right fingertips towards the left side. On your next inhale, reach your fingertips back up towards the center, towards the sky. And then switch your grip. Take the left fingertips towards the right side this time. On your next inhale, reach everything back up. We're going to go towards the left one more time. Bring the right fingertips towards the left side. On your next inhale, reach your hands back up. And then exhale, switch your grip. Take your fingertips towards the right side. Next, inhale, reach your arms back up. And then very slowly on your exhale, reach your arms down by your sides. Imagine that you're moving through water. Returning to mountain pose, step your left foot back to high lunge. Bend that right knee, straighten out through that left, and then start to twist towards the right side. Bring your arms down into a T, left arm towards the front, right arm towards the back, and then lower that right arm towards that back left thigh. Bring your arms back into a T once again, lift the arms up, and then rotate back towards center. Open up into a warrior two, so open up to the left side, left toes pointing out, front toes pointing towards the front. Bring your arms out to a T, relax the shoulders away from the ears and bend into that right leg. Place the left hand on the left thigh, reach the front arm up and back for reverse warrior. On your next inhale, reach your arms back towards center, return your torso to neutral, and then reach your arms forward as much as you can. Once you can't anymore, lower your right arm towards the ground, left arm up. Option to bend that right elbow, bring it onto that right knee. And then extend the left arm, left fingertips towards the front instead of up. Straight line from your left ankle all the way up to your left fingertips. On your next inhale, reach your left arm back to pull your torso back up. Bring your right toes to face towards the long side of the mat, coming into a wide-legged forward fold. Bring your toes to point in and your heels to point out just a little, just so that the outer edges of the feet are parallel with the outer, shorter edges of the mat. Bring your hands onto your hips, and once again, slowly start to fold over your legs, bringing your hip creases to touch. Option to bring that block underneath your hands to bring the ground up. Big inhale. On your next exhale, option to fold over for forward fold. Option to bring your head or forehead onto that block on its tallest position. On your next inhale, lift your torso up slightly. Place your left hand on the ground or on the block. Reach your right arm towards the sky, rotating, opening up with that right shoulder. If that means 45 degrees, that's fine. It doesn't have to be 90 degrees. It doesn't have to be straight up. Just make sure you're extending from that right shoulder and your arm is reaching from that. Place your right hand on the ground and swap your hands. Start to lift the left hand up towards the sky as you twist towards the left side. Big inhale, big exhale. Release your left hand to the ground. Place your hands onto your hips, and on your next inhale, lift your torso up all the way, returning to a standing, wide-legged position. Turn your back toes, so your left toes towards the back of the mat this time, and bend into that left knee, coming into warrior two on the other side. Back toes face towards the long side of the mat, and then reach those left fingertips towards the back. And then once you can't anymore, drop the left fingertips down, right fingertips up. Option to bring that block underneath the left hand. And then straighten out through that left foot, coming into a triangle pose. Feel free to bend into that as much as you'd like, bringing your hands onto the block or allowing your hands to float, whatever feels best. On your next inhale, reach your right arm back to help lift your torso. We're going to face towards the long side and then rotate, pivot on both feet to face towards the front of the mat, returning to high lunge. Place your hands onto the ground and step your right foot back to meet the left. Lift your hips up high for downward facing dog. On your next inhale, lift your heels, and on the exhale, start to tiptoe your feet towards the front of the mat. Bend your knees as you go, coming into forward fold. Slowly roll your torso up to mountain pose, and then step your right foot back for high lunge on the left side. Bend into that left knee. Lift the arms up, big inhale, and on your next exhale, twist your torso towards that left side, towards that front bent knee. Bring your arms into a T. Then bring the left arm towards that back right thigh. Lift the right arm up and back for reverse lunge. Then return your arms to a T position. Lift the arms up. And we're going to open up towards the right side. Warrior 2 on the left. Bend into that left knee. Arms out into a T, and then relax the shoulders away from the ears. Place the right hand on that back right thigh. Lift the left hand up and reach it back. Then reach both hands back towards center, and then reach the left hand towards the front of the mat till you can't reach anymore. Then drop the left arm towards the ground. Right hand reaches up. Option to place that elbow onto the left knee to help support. And then reach your right arm back. Straighten out through that left leg, and then rotate both toes towards the long right side of the mat. Coming into a wide-legged stance, rotate the toes in, heels come out. Bend your knees, and then slowly hinge your hips, bending over the legs for wide-legged forward fold. Place your hands onto the ground or onto a block, and then on your next exhale, fold over your legs a little bit more. Stay here for a couple of deep breaths. Bend the knees as much as you need to. On your next inhale, lift the torso up halfway and place the left hand on the ground. Lift the right fingertips towards the sky. On your exhale, return your right hand to the ground. Lift the left fingertips, twist towards the left side. Exhale to bring that left hand towards the ground. Place your hands onto your hips, and slowly on your next inhale, lift your torso up, returning to standing wide-legged position. The right toes are going to face towards the back of the mat now, and the left toes face towards the long side. Bend into that right knee, coming into Warrior 2 on the right side. Arms come out into a T, but make sure that your ribs are stacked over your hips and that you're not leaning forward or back. And then once you've checked, bring your arms into the T. Place your left hand on that back left thigh. Lift the right hand up and reach it back for Reverse Warrior. Then bring your arms to the T. Then lower the right arm towards the ground. Lift the left arm up. Extended Warrior. And then straighten out through that right foot, coming into a triangle pose. Option to bring your block underneath that right hand to help lift the floor up. Stay here for one more big breath in, big breath out. Bend into that right knee, return to Warrior 2, lift the arms into a T, rotate the feet so that you're standing in a wide-legged position towards the long side of the mat, and then pivot on both feet to face towards the front of the mat again. High lunge. Place your hands onto the ground, step your left foot back. Place your knees onto the ground, untuck the toes, and slowly sink your hips for child's pose. Your knees can be together, or they can be apart, coming out wide like it was in the beginning of the flow, whatever feels good, and then option to ground your forehead onto the earth. And as we start to cool down, start to notice the effects of this practice, start to notice the sensations and how the air is moving within your body. Stay here for 5 more deep breaths. Breathing in as much as you can, filling up your entire torso, filling up the low back, the hips, the ribs. Slowly start to walk your hands back towards your knees, roll your torso up. Coming into a kneeling position. Stay here for just a moment, stretching out through the front of the legs. Take a big inhale in, big exhale out. Come into whatever seated position feels comfortable. Lift your hips up off of your heels and come into a cross-legged position, crossing your ankles and sitting your sitting bones back behind your ankles. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with all new yoga classes, and thank you for being patient with me as the audio isn't matching up. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this class, and don't forget you can come back to it anytime. Let me know how it went in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with all new yoga classes.